So I'll just have a few quick announcements first, and then turn it over to you.
Okay.
Oh, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, hello everyone. I think I was just muted. So I will start my intro over again. See, no matter how long you do the Zoom, these things still happen. Well, my name is Sam Jack, and I'm a librarian here at Newton Public Library. And I am so pleased that Pansy Fryman agreed to join us today for this Fourth Tuesday photography program, How and Why to Judge 4-H Photography. I'm going to turn it over to her real quick, but just first, I'd like to highlight a few things we have coming up at the library. A week from tomorrow is the first of 3 book discussions in our Talk series. That stands for Talk About Literature in Kansas, and it's sponsored by Humanities Kansas. Each of them has a special guest, and the first one is going to be Dennis Etzel, talking about Atul Gawande's book, Being Mortal. That's the theme of this fall series. It's called Dearly Beloved, and it's kind of about mortality, death, and bereavement, important issues there. And you can pick up that book, Being Mortal, as well as the next 2 books in the discussion at the library. We've got copies on hand. Then next month, I'll go ahead and say real quick, we've got another book discussion coming up, Mystery Lovers, as well as our monthly Tech Talk with Nathan. And our Fourth Tuesday program next month is going to be presented by Jim Griggs, who several of you know, I believe. He's going to be talking about night shooting and light painting, which is a really cool subject, and I'm sure we'll learn some great tricks. Also next month on the third Tuesday, that's our history/genealogy night, and I'm actually giving the program. I decided to call it The Age of Stage, and I found all kinds of interesting info about theater and stage performance in Wichita and Newton before the birth of cinema. So and there's lots more info on our website, newtonplks.org, and on our Facebook page where some of you are currently watching this. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Pansy. And Pansy, I've got your PowerPoint going, so just go ahead and say next or signal me when it's time to advance the slide.
Okay, Sam. So I'm intrigued that I was asked to present by a couple of my friends, and I'll do my best to make sure that you all want to become 4-H photography judges. It's a really intriguing, fun, exciting activity that you can do. And the best thing, there's only 2 skills that you need. One is photography, and the other one is how to talk to kids, how to listen to kids, or to youth, actually, as that's what you do as a 4-H judge. Most of our judging is called consultative judging, which means we actually meet face-to-face with each 4-H'er and evaluate in our case, the photography that they've brought to the table. It's fun. You'll get lots of good stories about how they took the pictures, some of which are often fantasy, but that's okay when you're 7 and 8 years old and just learning how to take pictures. So how do you get started? Well, first you have to be asked. There's 105 counties in Kansas. Each one of them has at least 1 county fair. Some counties go all out, and I know of at least 2 counties where there are at least 3 different county fairs, but the same clientele enter all 3 of them. So it's always something different, and every county fair is independent. They make their own rules within certain limits. Most of them offer open class as well as 4-H classes. And as judge, it's your responsibility to agree when you get asked if you will judge. The county offices will contact people, sometimes beginning as early as in January, for fairs that will occur in July and August. Be sure you write them down on a calendar that you keep, because don't be like me. I missed one year. I got a phone call on a day that I was enjoying being off from judging, and this familiar voice says, "Pansy, are you almost here?" And I said, "Where?" And she told me where I was supposed to be, and I looked at her, or I looked at my calendar, and I said, "I've got it down. I'm supposed to be there tomorrow." She says, "Oh dear, we sent out the wrong letter then." I said, "I can't be there in 20 minutes, you know. I live 2 hours away from them." And we both had a good laugh at it, and they figured out a way to get the pictures judged without me being there. So a calendar is important, and you give a verbal or written commitment to judge at the time that you're contacted. Now, how do you prepare for this event? Each office will send you the rules that they follow, and you need to be familiar with them, which means read them more than once, write down any questions that you have, and get clarification from other people who have judged 4-H photography before, or talking to the superintendent after you arrive on the fairgrounds. There are 2 types of ribbon systems used. The American system is where generally only the top 3 photos are placed. And it will be 1 blue ribbon, 1 red ribbon, and 1 white ribbon. And many people don't understand that system, and they get very distraught to think that their picture was a white ribbon picture, when in reality it was the 3rd best picture of the number of exhibits that were there. The Danish system is what is generally used by county fairs for 4-H judging, where exhibits are grouped into purple, which is superior, blue, which is good, excellent, red, which is average, or white, which means maybe it needed a little more work before it was placed in competition. You can review some national curriculum for photography to see what kinds of vocabulary terms are being used for the youth while they're creating their pictures. I like to format questions that I want to use for judging, and I carry them with me on a card, because like everybody else, I can ramble. And so I find that the card helps me keep focused on what I'm supposed to be doing, which is questioning the child and listening to their answers. And then I find it also helpful to find or create a guide that I want to use for my ribbon placing. What will I accept in a photo that puts it into purple, blue, red, or white? And there's not much, but there's a lot that happens. In extension work, which is what 4-H is, we work with the 3 E's. Yes, we're being asked to evaluate the work, to rate, rank as compared to a standard, not as compared to other pictures, but as a standard of work. But also we are charged with educating the youth or the adults and encouraging them to continue to work in the project. And sometimes that encouragement part gets really hard when a young person brings you pictures and none of them are well done. I'll share an experience from not my personal judging, but a friend who judges. He had a young man come to the table and he brought 3 or 4 pictures, I don't remember how many now, and all of them were overexposed, colors were off, and so as gently as he could, he worked with the young man to find out what he could about the pictures. And after about 3 or 4 questions, the young man said, "Well, these aren't the pictures I wanted to bring to the fair." And so the judge asked him, well, then why did you bring them? 2 weeks ago, our house burned down. We lost everything, and all of my 4-H project work was burned up. These pictures were taken with a disposable film camera that we found on the shelf in an old grocery store. Well, needless to say, you all know about film deteriorating as it is improperly cared for, and in the heat of an unair-conditioned building, the age. I mean, how long has it been since disposable film cameras disappeared from the world? And the young man had done the best he could with what he had available. And the judge was able to provide him with lots of encouragement, talking about the things that he had done correctly, working with a camera that he had never used before, and helped the young man evaluate his own work. The young man knew exactly what was wrong with each picture, but he said, I wanted to bring something to the fair. And he did. But it's important for those of us that work with the youth, and I will tell you honestly, I bleed green. I was a 9-year 4-H'er back when you had to be 9 to join. I have 4 children. They all put in their 12 years in 4-H. And now I have 4 grandchildren who have, one has completed his work in 4-H, and the other 3 are, 2 are active, and 1 is still too young to join, but he's been showing animals anyway. So I believe in it. I believe in what it stands for, and photography is a good way for lots of kids to learn and share and grow. So they need judges. So if you get asked, what do you do then? Well, on the big day, you arrive in time to ask questions of the superintendent. That's the person who's in charge of the department, photography, at that county fair. If you have any questions at all about what they put in their rule book, or there's anything you want to have them show you, get it done before you begin to judge, then judge. Look at the pictures, talk with the kids, judge the pictures on the quality that they have. Leave your own prejudices at the door. A couple of the people who are here with us tonight know me, and they know that across the state, I get teased because I don't like cat pictures. But I have placed the big rosettes on some cat pictures at fairs when those have been the best pictures. The fact that I don't care for them doesn't interfere with the work that the child did. If you're presented with a snake picture, and snakes are something that you are mortally afraid of and would not take a picture of if you were forced to, leave that prejudice at the door. Judge the work that the child did. And you have to learn somehow how to balance the technical skills that they used and the creativity that they showed in creating the pictures while you're judging them. Your responsibilities are to be familiar with the classes, rules, any special exhibits, be consistent, and do not allow extra information to taint the evaluation of the entry. In small county fairs, a lot of times the superintendents or the clerks or somebody will try to tell you that, well, we know so-and-so doesn't do his own work, or we know that probably this picture wasn't taken by the child. You just ignore that. You are judging the picture on the quality. You're taking it for granted that the child did the work. Be on time. Nothing's worse than being late. and offer suggestions for change at the end of the day only if they're asked for. County fairs are kind of like, you know, other people's grandchildren. They're all the best and the most handsome and most beautiful and the smartest ones there are. County fairs can be, the county fairs can be a little bit tricky to navigate if they find, or if they feel that you don't think their county fair is one of the best ones. That shouldn't happen. Before you begin, be sure you understand the ribbon system for the event. Some county fairs give out big purple rosettes for every age group. Other county fairs give out one for the total event. So make sure you understand how they group them. Generally, 4-H photography is grouped into junior, intermediate, and senior age groups. But it can also be grouped by experience. In case in point, one of my grandsons is 15. He just completed his 2nd year in 4-H photography. So he competes at the state level in the 3 years and under experience class. While at our county fair, he had to participate in the senior age group, 14 and up, against other 4-Hers who had been taking pictures for up to 8-10 years. So make sure you understand which way they're doing it. If there's more than one judge hired to judge at the county fair, make sure you know whether you will be responsible for a certain age group and all of the awards there, or whether you and the other judges have to put your heads together to come up with the big final awards. Always ask, because some counties will do it lots of different ways. When you're doing consultative judging, be prepared for funny statements. I had the fun one year of working with a young man. It was his 1st year in photography, and he brought me 5 pictures, and we went. I always let the kids choose the one they want to talk about first. And so we'd gone through 4 of his 5 pictures. And when he handed me the 5th one, it was far and away his best offer. And I looked at it and I told him what I liked about it. I asked him, I said, "What made you take this picture?" And he looks at me, and as calmly as you can imagine, he says to me, "We were driving home from town and my mom slammed on the brakes and said, 'Get out and take a picture, damn it.'" That's what he told me. And his mother was standing about 6 feet away, and she heard him, and she blushed 100 colors. And she nodded at me. She says, "That's really what happened." But he took the picture. One of the hardest things I find when I'm helping youth with their photography is to help them determine the difference between a memory photo and a competition photo. We talk a lot about, they bring me pictures of their dog, or they'll bring pictures of someone with a dog, and it won't tell a story, or it doesn't fill the frame, or things like that. And I'll ask them why that picture came to the fair, and they'll tell me, "Well, that's my dog, and he got run over by a car 2 days after I took that picture." Or, "That's my uncle and my dog, and my uncle died the other day." And, you know, and so then I gently talk to them about sometimes photos that mean a whole lot to us and to our families aren't quite ready for competition, that we need to look at what we bring to the fair with a competition idea and not just a memory idea. And at all times, keep age and experience of the young person you're talking to in mind. A 7-year-old shouldn't know how to do composition or composite pictures. A 15-year-old should be able to tell you the kind of camera that he's using and what mode he's shooting in. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's the way we like for it to happen. Consultative judging is a sharing of information between the exhibitor and the judge. We want the exhibitor to be able to discuss with the judge his image using vocabulary appropriate to his age and experience, obviously. But don't overwhelm the exhibitor with additional information. A 7 or 8-year-old does not need to be told, well, you should have edited this photo and increased the contrast. Number one, they probably don't understand what you're talking about. And number two, you would be amazed at the numbers of families that I work with who don't have any kind of editing programs. They often don't realize that their computer, whether it be an Apple product or a PC of any various kinds, comes with a very simple editing program already on it. So you don't want to make them feel bad because they didn't know that, and you also don't want to overwhelm them by talking about what they should have done using Photoshop. There, I'll get off that soapbox. Discuss with the exhibitor the components of his picture that you consider to be well done. Gently point out areas where they could improve. What would have happened if you'd have stepped 2 steps to the left when you took this photo? And if their answer is, I would have fallen into the pond, then accept that that might have been the best way to shoot that picture. Sandwich your comments, if you can, by ending with a positive, something you like about the work. And again, don't let your personal biases overwhelm the exhibitor's work. But really, what do I say? Well, it comes down to about 3 groups of things. Focus. An out of focus image should rarely place in the blue group. Sharp focus is the intent of photography almost always, unless you're doing creative, artistic things. Composition with all of its elements, placements, lighting, subject, leading lines, framing, and so forth. And then techniques. What makes the photo stand out, or what special work was done? Ask questions. Ask what they did. See if they can tell you. What should they know? Well, lots of things. All exhibitors should be able to tell you what camera type they used, a lens or a shutter speed, and the ISO used in the photo, and the years they've been in the project. I can't stress that one enough. Intermediate 4-Hers should be able to add to what we just talked about, explaining the lighting that was used, why they chose to exhibit the photo, what they personally like about the photo, what they'd change if they shot it again. Senior exhibitors should be able to answer all of the previous questions and then get a little deeper into it. What were you trying to convey to the viewer? And my favorite is, what's in your picture that will make Joe Public stop and look at it for longer than 2 seconds to walk by? Did you use any of the special features on your camera to create this image? If so, what were they? Did you use photo editing software? And what did you do to the image? In entering a contest in 4-H particularly, there's showmanship involved. The mounting of the photo. There are local, county, and state rules often. The size of the photo. Generally, they're 8 by 10, although sometimes the local rules will have various different sizes. A clean mat board, mat board, with no glue strings or fingerprints on the mat board or on the print. And then try to look at the picture's quality, ignoring the showmanship, Evaluate the quality first, and then if you have to work with local officials, sometimes there's a penalty system where you might put it in the blue ribbon group, but because the mat board is dirty or there's fingerprints on it, the county will drop it a ribbon, and you need to understand how that works and be prepared to discuss that with the department superintendents. So not to bore you with it, but again, for 7 to 9-year-olds, here are the easy questions. You don't have to ask all of them, but you should ask some of them. For 10 to 13-year-olds, what's generally known as our intermediate group, and for our older guys, 14s and up, why do you ask the questions? You're listening for the vocabulary of the project in their responses. Try to find out in 2 minutes or less if they understand photography, age and experience appropriate, of course, or if they just grabbed a lucky shot. There's nothing wrong with a lucky shot. I'll take a lucky shot any day. But the exhibitor should recognize that the image is a result of some luck in having his camera handy. Photography judging topics. Basically, this is kind of a scale where the first four basically are the really, really important ones. And then after that is where you add in the education and the things that the child could do to improve the quality of his work. When we break it down by age groups, 7 and 8 years old, if they're first or second year in the project, as a judge, I basically look at focus and composition. For the next group, do they know what special modes are? Manual, auto, priority modes. Can they explain the differences? Next age group, 12 and 13-year-olds, who are going to be your older intermediates. They should have mastered the focus and composition, and they should be able to explain the techniques that they use and the settings and what they did that was creative. 14 and up, I hold them to a pretty high standard, even if they're a first or second year in, because a 14-year-old can learn it quicker than a 7-year-old most of the time. What would they, and my one question I ask all the time, that, and a lot of them just look at me, was what would you do differently if you could reshoot the picture? And I try to point out to them that if you could go back someplace twice and redo it, what would you do different to create a different, better picture than what you took the first time? Some of them act like they've never heard about that before. You will run into photos taken with cameras that aren't traditional. Cell phone photos caused a big controversy when it first started happening. iPod photos, iPad photos, those will tax you to stay up with the technology, knowing how to do it yourself and being willing to let 4-H'ers show you how they did it and what apps they utilized. I've seen beautiful iPad and cell phone pictures. I've seen some really lousy ones. iPods, for the most part, they don't take good pictures. But if that's what the kid has, then that's what the kid has. Judge the photo, not the youth. We would hope that they come to you with a smile on their face and clean hands and appropriate clothing, but it's a county fair, and sometimes the children are running from event to event. And if one's in the barn and one's in the exhibition building and it's time for them to come in from the barn, they may not have time to put on clean clothes. but take that into your composition or into your consideration. Editing software, we don't ever expect or require it. We talk to the kids about simple edits, cropping, sharpening, slight color adjustments. We encourage them to do most of any editing in the camera. I have still, though, run into counties where the county rule book says very plainly, no editing, and they mean it. So as a judge, you have to be alert to that kind of a rule, and then be knowledgeable. Know the names of editing software. We all realize there's more out there than just Photoshop. And also what I call one-click editing features, where all they do is put their photo up, push a button, and the computer does all the work. We want the child to do the work. Okay, let's see here. Where am I? Okay. Just look at the last line kind of here. Focus, composition, impact, yeah. If you're going to assign points, composition and all it entails should be about a third, 35%. Their knowledge of the project, what you got from their answers to your questions or your discussion, and a 25%, a fourth. Eye appeal, 20%, and showmanship, 20%. I've only been asked to fill out forms with my numbers on them twice in all the years I've been judging. I didn't really understand why they wanted them then. I told him, I said, by the time the kid leaves the table, he's going to be tired of hearing me talk about it, and I don't think he wants it numbers later. And they said, the parents want it. And I said, well, then the parents can come and stand behind the kid and listen to. It's a lot of work to do that one. What will you be judging? Well, 8x10 prints are the most common exhibit in 4-H photography. They could be color, they could be black and white. But we do have composite photos, which is an image created from multiple images, and it has special rules and mounting requirements, which should be in the rules that the county sends you. A new class for us this year was called portfolios, and we have two types. There's the growth portfolio for boys and girls with 5 years in photography project, and they pick one image from each year that they have been in the project and evaluate it, and then show or tell what they think the pictures say about their growth in skills. The career portfolio requires a minimum of 2 years in the project and is for ages 14 and up who might be exploring photography as a career. They are required to do 10 images from the current year only on the career field that they chose to explore. Both portfolios require data sheets for each image where they list shutter speed, mode, lens, and aperture. God can think. They have to fill that out, one for every picture, and then it's evaluated with both oral discussion and written comments. Because of COVID and our lack of ability to be able to promote it as much as we wanted to, we weren't sure whether we would even get any turned in at State Fair this year, but we did. We had 3, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but we were tickled to death to get them. And they showed, we had some in each of those areas, and they showed us that we're on the right track, that the kids do want to know, am I growing? Can I prove it? Why do you want to judge? Well, I do it because it's fun. You want to see what others can do, other youth. and because you can. Now, as a retired person, I don't have to worry about taking time off from my job to go judge. If you are still employed and would have to take vacation time or paid time off or whatever to go and judge at a county fair, then it's going to be a little harder for you to decide whether you want to, because even though you will be paid for judging, don't count on it to pay your car payment or your mortgage, because it doesn't work that way. County fairs, the fair board will usually pay $30, $35 for the first 3 hours. That's a total for the first 3 hours. And then generally it runs $10 an hour over that. They also pay you mileage both ways from your house. So if it's an all-day job, you might, depending on how far away you live, you might take a check for $75. Some counties will pay you on the day that you work. Other counties will wait until their fair is over and then write checks out for everybody and mail. It's not a high-paying position. Just remember, it's fun. It's a great experience. And I wouldn't give it up for the world. I had my grandsons ask me the other day if I remembered what the dinosaurs used to do. And I told them I really wasn't around at that time. But probably at some point I will give it up. The judging, I mean. So how do you get the jobs? Okay. Every county has a local extension office. Usually in the county seat, not always. Call them, introduce yourself, tell them that you'd like to have your name placed on the official judges list and state the project area that you would like to judge. Then wait for phone calls. Names can be shared to the area office, what we call the area office in extension, and you can call them as well. Or if you want to send me your contact information, which would be name, address, and a phone number, and an email if possible, then I will send them to your area office. We always are looking for people who want to work with kids. And photography is a really fun area to do that work in. So if you are intrigued, or if you would like to give it a whirl, let me know and we'll see what we can do to get you busy. Do we have questions, Sam?
Yeah, we do have questions, and I'm gonna go ahead and make Jeff Heidel, made him a panelist, so he should be yeah, great. And yeah, and let me see. I'm gonna turn on. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I saw Jeff for a second there.
There he goes.
There he is.
Yeah, hi Jeff. Yeah, so Jeff, you had some questions, and it sounds like you know Pansy, and of course Jeff's a great volunteer with the Fourth Tuesday Photography Club. So I thought I'd ask him to get on video and make this a little bit more lively. And the rest of you in the Zoom, I turned on your microphone. Let me see, your microphones too, I think. So you should be able to unmute yourself and ask a question out loud if you like. And then those of you on Facebook can type a question if you like, and I will relay it that way.
Now, another person to be good to bring on is Pam Paulson. She does a lot of judging too. And
yeah, okay. I
if she wants to be, put her on the spot here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and one thing to add to what you said earlier about why you do it, I think there's another reason I do it. And it's, to me, it's like over the years, I've had people help me with my photography, and I feel it's a way for me to give back to this next generation of photographers. And just talking to these little kids is a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jeff. That's a good reason. I didn't include that in the PowerPoint. I probably should. But yeah, we've all had help along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Pam. Sorry for
Oh.
putting you on the spot.
That's okay. Nice job, Pansy.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks. You know, going along with what Jeff said, for 20 years, we had a photography adventure camp that we hosted every summer for teenagers. They had to be 13 to come. And it's so fun now when I travel around to some places, I'm judging photos of the children of those teens who came to the camp. And it's a lot of fun to see that love of photography in their family and all that fun stuff. Ooh, Jeff, you're standing on your head.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Upside down.
get it so I'm not looking up. All right.
Yeah, well, Jeff, one of the questions you typed was, what's the worst advice you've heard a judge say to one of the kids?
Oh. Well, the worst advice, I think, is when the judge was overwhelming an 8-year-old, telling them what they should have done in Photoshop to improve their picture. And it included things like cloning things out and changing the sky. And yeah, that's not what it's about. We want to take what they've done and evaluate it. And then for the older kids, we might make some suggestions about using editing software, but it's never a requirement. Never a requirement. And except in the composites. They have to use editing software in the composite pictures.
The worst I've heard was somebody that just everything rules of thirds. Everything was rules of thirds. You know, always had to be rules of thirds. And we all know it's not really a rule. It's I call them suggestions of third. You know, suggested rule. You know, it works most of the time, but it doesn't always work. And you know, and I'll show the kids what if I think it will. I'll show them what I think, and I go, "What do you think of this?" But I won't say that's the right way to do it because they're the artist and they know what their vision was. So.
Well, and those of us that have judged, we've come across families that don't understand the ratio, that truly what they're taking a picture would be better in an 8x12 than an 8x10. And so they've lost part of the picture and they don't understand that, or they don't understand that it makes a difference where you get your pictures processed and printed, that the quality varies so much. You need to know your printer, know your person or your company that's going to do your pictures, because it can make a humongous difference in what the quality is when they come back.
I think you mentioned earlier about iPods, iPads, and I remember doing Hutchison probably the first year I did Hutchison Fair, and it is kid and the mom, you know, it was just the image was very pixelated and stuff like that. And the mom was like, "It looks so good on the screen. I don't know what's going on." I'm like, "What did you take it with?" And she said, "Well, all he had was a game or a little game handheld Game Boy, which is like a I don't know,
Yeah.
1.5 megapixel, and you're trying to blow that out. You know, probably looks good on 5x6, 7 or 4x6, but when you try to blow it up by 8x10, everything just gets bad. And, and so I explained it to him, and they understood. And at that point, there's there's ways you can buy a used camera or something like that. It's going to be better than what you're getting, but.
Yeah, I would just say I grew up in 4-H, the Delano 4-H Club in Sedgwick County, and did the photography project. And, I was kind of thinking about it with this program coming up, and I think it did make a difference for me because I was in the photography project and I learned these things that Pansy was talking about, and did the judging and all that. And then I kind of really, frankly, I dropped it as an activity or a hobby after 4-H. But then, years later, I had this opportunity to become a local newspaper reporter, which is what I did before I took this job at the library. And, I was asked in my interview, like, can you take photos? Because, you'd be taking photos too. And I think that having had that past experience and a little bit of confidence that I could, yeah, I could take a nice photo if called upon. I think that gave me the confidence to say, yes, I can do it. Just put the camera in my hand, and then it does open up those career opportunities that you were talking about. I think it's really cool that 4-H now has this career-oriented project option for kids that are interested in that direction.
I don't think I've seen any of those this year. Is it?
No, partly because of COVID, we didn't have the numbers that we thought we would. We actually had 3 youth who submitted them for state fair competition, and I had the privilege of judging those. I had inquiries from other places across the state as parents were trying to help their child get it organized. And then I think it was so up and down for a while as to whether we would even have anything that could go to a state fair, and they just didn't complete it. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that with our publicity and our availability to work with the people, why we can increase those numbers, because it's definitely something that can help kids.
Right. And I'm not sure how many we've got online. I just see who's on Zoom right now, but if you're in Harvey County is always looking for judges. And I know Pam is always looking for judges in Reno County, and Sedgwick County is always looking for judges. So, I mean, if something you're interested in, get your name, get to Pansy or even Pam, will get your name out to people too. But definitely it's a good experience. It's fun. It's scary the first time. What I would suggest the first time you go through is sit down with one of the experienced judges for maybe 2 or 3 kids, just to watch how they do it. And then after a while, you just forget how scary it is, and you'll just start having fun, especially if you get a 7 or 8-year-old that's just excited about their photography.
Oh, yeah.
So
I went up to St. Francis this year, first time I'd ever been up there to judge. So I had no idea what kind of program or anything they had. And I got this little 7-year-old, and when he walked up to the table, the people who were clerking started laughing. And I turned around and I looked at them, and they said, this kid was a doll. I mean, it was his first year in photography. He brought me 2 pictures. I asked him which one he wanted to talk about first, and he says, well, we need to talk about this one first. I said, okay. He says, well, it happened first, so we need to talk about it first. Okay. I look at it. It's a picture of a vine, and there's a blossom on the vine. And it's a nice opened blossom, and it was in focus. And I said, tell me how you took this picture. He says, well, that's my pumpkin, I said, I'm not much of a plant person, so I'll take your word for it that that's pumpkin vine. He says, oh yeah. And he says, and I had to lay on my tummy, and I had to be really careful not to squash any parts of the vine because I wanted it to grow and make as many pumpkins as possible. And I laid down there, and I propped my camera up with my elbows on the ground. And I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked, and finally when I liked it, I pushed the button. I said, well, that's awesome. He says, no, wait till you see the next picture. I said, okay. And he hands me the next one. And I said, wow. He says, that pumpkin is what was growing from that flower. I said, really? He says, yeah, we marked it so I could tell. Guys, the colors were good. The focus was good. The composition was fun. What are you going to do with a kid like that? He was an awesome one. Now, you get some that won't talk at all.
I had one year, and she was really good, and I was asking her about it and asking her why she decided to do what she did. She goes, well, you told me to do this last year. And is what I do is, and I've talked to you about this, Pansy, is I give some of them that I think have a lot of talent, I give them assignments, especially if they live on a farm, if they've got something interesting. And I always tell them, it's like, okay, you got this windmill in your backyard, go take it, every month, at least once a week, but never take it the same way twice. Always change your angle, change it different times. And that's what she did. And she did it, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and you realize then you've made a difference for that
Yeah.
kid. And that's the most fun part of it.
Mhm.
That's the most fun part of it. Realizing that they listened and they went home and they tried it. And that really makes it work.
So Pansy, what is your favorite county to judge in?
My favorite county?
Yeah.
I don't know. The ones that pay me? No, I've been judging now for, oh geez, 20 years. And the most fairs I've ever done in one fair season was 10, which like to killed me, because fair season is a very compact 3 to 4 week period of time. But I don't particularly have a favorite county. I have counties that if they call and
You're busy.
I might not be as quick to say, yes, I'll come, just because of things that have happened while I've been in their county judging. Usually none of them relate to the kid. It's other things. I went to one county and judged one year, and the 2 people that were supposed to be helping me were both teenagers, older teenagers in the program. And the one was supposed to be recording ribbons and the other one was supposed to be putting them up on display. And they were so busy having I'll sing the line, you tell me the name of the song contest, that I finally gave up and just did it all myself. Well, I haven't been back there, and I probably will not go back to that county. I've been to counties where I've been told that I've been handed a group of pictures and told by the superintendent, none of these can have purple ribbons. And I looked, I thought that's what I was for, and well, they entered them late. And I looked at her and I said, you're the superintendent. If you accepted them, then they're just as valid an entry as the others. And I'll judge them on the quality that they have. And I've not been asked back to that county, so that doesn't hurt my feelings. And there's, it goes both ways. We had a judge first year in our county this year, and since I'm photography superintendent at the fair, I have a little bit of say-so in whether they get to come back or not. And this young person won't be asked back in the immediate future to our fair because she dominated the conversations that was supposed to be done between the 3 judges to make a decision, and she'd make comments like, oh, that's just a flower. That's just a flower. Every picture that came across that was a portrait of a flower, she'd say, that's just a flower. They were well done flowers, And then she made comments that were none of her business to make, A picture was submitted and it happened to be little boys crawling up a tree that's in our local zoo, that the limb grows at a funny angle, and it's a fun climbing experience for little ones. And she says, well, it looks like they're sniffing each other's butts. Well, number 1, she had a very loud voice. And number 2, she doesn't need to be saying those kinds of, that may be her first thought, but she's supposed to look at the quality of the picture, and it was in focus, and the composition followed the rule of thirds, and and so she's not going to be invited back very soon. Might give her some chances to mature, and maybe we'll go from there.
I think one of the things you brought up too is when you're doing the final judging as a team of judges, sometimes it's really good. Like when we did Reno County last year, we all knew each other, and all of us were going to say what we thought. With respect.
No shrinking dialect in that group.
Yeah, what's frustrating sometimes is when you're the dominant photographer, and you got two that'll say, "Oh yeah, whatever you say." So
Yeah.
no, and so I'll be quiet. A lot of times I'll be quiet and let them. I'll encourage them to talk before I say anything, just because I don't want my view to influence what they're thinking. I want to hear what they think. Like they're afraid sometimes to say, "Hey, this is my favorite one," and it's like, if that's your favorite one, say it and fight for it.
Yeah. Right.
You know, the judges that I ask to come back, they're not always the easy judges. They may be tough, but they're the ones that educate and help the kids improve their skills and show them or talk to them about how to do that.
Uh-huh.
And they may not give all the purples or the blues, but
Yeah.
the kids will be better the next time around.
Yeah, I always feel I'm failing because I don't give that many purples, but I rarely give a white.
Yeah.
You have to really be bad, and it's usually, and I never give a white to a younger kid. It's always going to be the more experienced kids that have been in the program, and most of the time they got a white because photography contest was Saturday or Thursday for Reno County, and they went out Wednesday with their cell phone, took some pictures, and went to Walgreens to print them and mount them the night before, and they looked like it, and those are the ones that get the whites.
And they stood in line with all the other 4-Hers at Walgreens waiting to print their pictures.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
But I do give a lot of blues and reds. But
Well, red can cover. I always make sure the kids understand that red means average. Anybody with a camera should have been able to do this type of work, this quality of work. And average covers a big range of mistakes. But I'm like you, Jeff, it's got to be bad if I give a white to it.
right.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, I guess that the ribbons, they do incentive, they definitely, ribbons and the competition element, I wonder if sometimes, and I wonder this, think back on my own 4-H experience, sometimes I wonder if that's kind of a distraction, but on the other hand, I do think that 4-H kids, they do get motivated to win those ribbons and to compete, and I think that helps with participation.
But they learn what they have to do. There's some effort, there's some dedication, there's whatever. And I know, Jeff, you asked me about if some counties have basically unlimited entries.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of 2 counties that I've judged in multiple times. One county has 25 classes, and the kid can enter up to 4 pictures in each class. I have had children approach the table with a stack of 50 8x10 prints. Now, we all know
That makes for a long day.
it's a long day, yes. And there are going to be mistakes that are repeated in the different ones. And so I've gotten to where if they come up with that many pictures, I sit there and I sort them out. And I'll pick all of the ones that are of their pets. Those go in a stack. All the flower ones go in a stack so that I don't have to repeat what I'm saying 50 some times.
Right.
And we can look at a group of pictures and then I'll put ribbons on them. We had one of our state action team members reported this year that she was judging and was told not to tell the kid what ribbon he got, but to remember what she gave the picture so that they could put the ribbons on after the kids were gone. And she'd never had that happen to her before. And I don't agree with it, but I'm not in charge of all the county fairs. Maybe I should be. That's what I'll do in my retirement. Yeah, no.
For 4-H dictator.
The whole idea of the consultative judging is that the child knows when he leaves the table that these are some things I did good, these are some things I could make better, and this is the ribbon I got.
I don't know how many times I've told a kid too that really good picture, but just not a purple.
Mhm.
And I'll say, I'll tell them, what they did great, like you did. And I'll say, if you'd have done this, this, and this, you would have had a purple.
Mhm.
Minor things, but it's just the minor things that keep, from a blue to, blue from a purple, a red purple. Yeah.
And then I'm sure, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sure that you two have both done the open class judge. I'm guessing you have done
Yeah,
the open
I have.
class judging too. And is that usually not consultative like the 4-H judging?
No.
I've never judged open class at any of the county fairs where I've talked to the contestants. I have gone and judged in a county where they expected me to provide an educational lesson. They had a time set forth in the rule book that I wasn't aware of, that all the kids could come and sit and I was supposed to teach them something. And I didn't know about it till I got there. So that was kind of a challenge. Luckily, they had a whole bunch of pictures entered that were all on the same theme, flag. And so I could use those as my examples. And we talked about, strengthening and all that good stuff. But yeah, but I've never had to do oral comments for because open class is mostly adults, although occasionally you'll get a strong youth entries. The hardest one I've ever done was for 4-H consulting, where the kids come and take chairs and their pictures are on the wall and they want you as the judge to walk the wall and talk about each picture, and that everybody gets to hear what you say about every picture.
That's how they do the cattle judging, so it's got to work for photography too, right?
No, because when I have to do it that way, I don't know how old the kid is. And I don't know what kind of camera he used.
Yeah.
And I would expect a lot more out of a 14-year-old using an SLR than out of an 8-year-old using a fixed focus camera. And so those were difficult. And it took me 2 times up there, but I got him to change it to where the kid sits down at the table with me and we discuss his pictures. And then they put them up. And at the end of the day, I will go through and point out some really neat things. I'll point out some really excellent things. I won't talk about mistakes, but I'll show what was really excellent in this picture. And this picture really caught my eye because of the colors and the way the child used the composition to really set off his subject. Those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as open class, my experience, Harvey County is usually one judge does all the open class. Reno County, the judges that did 4-H, we go in as a group and we just put all the class on a table and we just start going through them and we'll come up with our first, second, or third on those. So, and I can't remember, I did Sedgwick County, but I can't remember how we did it there. And McPherson County, I don't know if I had to do open class. Maybe we just did 4-H on that one. But
A lot of times in the smaller counties, you will get your verbal commitment. They'll say, will you do youth and open? And so you do them all. I mean, you are the photography judge. But it's kind of fun. Kind of fun. To think about this, guys, if any of you are still around. In 4-H, the 4-H year of 2018, which is from October of 2018 to October of 2019, Johnson County had 300 youth enrolled in 4-H photography. They also had 60 adult volunteers serving as project leaders for those youth. The county, there were 2 counties in the state that tied for the least number enrolled, 9 youth, no project leaders. So sometimes that's also one of my questions, especially when I'm first judging in the county. did you have a project leader? Did you go to meetings? And a lot of times the kid will say, no, just I enrolled in the project and it was up to me to figure out how to make it work. Well, you got to give a kid credit for bringing pictures in that are decent if he had no guidance from anybody. Because I've had a kid tell me, my mom and dad didn't know anything about the camera and they told me it was up to me to figure it out. Big differences.
Yeah, I could go back to that. I noticed, and I can't think of her name. She's on the fourth Tuesday, but she was Harvey County's. She did a lot of the project leads in Harvey County there for a while. Newton, you know who I'm talking about? She lives in Manhattan now.
Peg?
Peg, yeah. You
Exactly.
could tell the quality in Harvey County when she was doing it, and then when she left because there's nobody replaced her. It was huge because some of the people that she mentored, did a really nice job of some pretty creative stuff. So just having somebody to help out is huge.
And I guess that's it's another volunteer opportunity, or I don't know if is it usually parents that are those project leaders, or is it?
Well,
They'll take anybody they can get, I think.
if you're breathing and say yes, they'll take you. No. 4-H, like other youth organizations, has had to go to certifying their volunteers that work with the youth. We have to go out in and fill out background information, and we have to pass a background check and things like that. So not anybody can be a leader, but a lot of counties have no leaders for certain projects, and photography seems to be one that comes up short of leaders in a lot of counties. And the further west you go, the more chances there are of that happening because of A, smaller population, and B, just smaller population. It's hard to find an adult with the skills to take and work with the kids. In my own county, we are the second largest geographically in the state. There are 4 school districts in my county. Try to mesh schedules between school activities and family activities from 4 different school districts and find a time when you can have a meeting with kids. It's gotten to the point where we establish meeting days, and the ones that show up, and the ones that can't come don't, and they know my telephone number and my email, and they're welcome to arrange for private conferences about their work or whatever they want to find out about. So it's interesting. There's lots of flexible ways to do it. But the whole thing is, if you're going to judge it, be fair, be consistent, and have fun.
You guys don't do the camp anymore, right?
No.
That was another thing probably that things went down too.
Yeah. We hated to give it up, but it was to the point of cost was going to cut our attendance anyway. And they tried to revive it last year, and they didn't have enough people want to pay $300 for 3 days to make it work. So it kind of is no longer available, but I get a lot of kids. I see them and they're grown up now. They've got their own babies in strollers or in school or whatever. And they still say, remember at camp when we, I used to get them up at 5:30 in the morning so we could do early bird shoots. We kept them up till 11 at night. We rarely had any trouble. The only thing they didn't do with their cameras was go swimming. They had an hour a day to go swim.
Jack, have we got any other questions in, or?
I haven't seen any more come in, so I think we can probably wrap it up now. Really appreciate you doing this, Pansy, and you too, Jeff and Pam. Thanks for hopping in. I really think this is a great thing, and hopefully I know we had some Fourth Tuesday folks in the audience on Zoom and Facebook, and I'm sure more will watch the recording as well later on, and hopefully get some more folks interested in signing up and doing this.
We'd sure encourage them to sign up because it's a good fun thing to do.
Pansy, could you maybe go into underneath the invite for this one and maybe put your email and that stuff, so if someone wanted to contact you about becoming a judge, they can get a hold of you, or maybe
It's on
Sam.
the last slide of,
Okay.
of the
Okay.
PowerPoint. I think he's going to record that, and then, yeah, they can also
Okay.
go to the state 4-H page and go to Photo Action Team, and my email's on there.
Okay. I know Pam's always looking for judges too, so.
Yep.
And it doesn't just have to be photography. If you have other skills that you
Right.
can judge, let me know.
Foods,
Yeah.
clothing, crafts, woodworking.
We will find a judging job for you.
Yeah,
Hey,
Harvey County was trying to get me to do.
Posters this year for the first time. That was fun.
Harvey County was trying to get me to do fine arts because I wasn't going to take off during the week because I was on a big project, and they were doing fine arts on Saturday. I'm like, I don't even know what to judge on fine arts. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead and
always
sign.
interesting.
Okay, cool. Well, I will